All right, guys, so let's run through this review worksheet. Hopefully you've already tried it and you're coming in here to see how you did. So first things first, in similar figures, corresponding angles are congruent and the corresponding sides are proportional, meaning you should be setting up proportions when you're solving for sides. This was just a straight relationship. So these two figures are similar in this order, so that would mean angle M is congruent to angle F. And angle K would be congruent to angle F as well, because I used F twice here. I just realized I used F twice. So interesting. But the reason it works is because there's an F there as well. So maybe they overlapped a little. Okay, here we have segment QF to GK. So those two over each other would be the same as what to RM. So RM would match up with LF. And the ratio of RF to LK is the same as MQ to FG. So you're just looking for the matches basically in that one. Okay. All right, then the next one we're using our properties. Again, if using the colon bothers you, what I would do is rewrite it as 3 over x equals 8 over 9, and then you can see how they match up. So this one clearly, since they multiplied 8 and x, they were doing cross multiplication, so it should be 3 times 9, but you do need to finish it and say 27. Okay, for the next one we have if m over 8 is equal to 3 over e, then what is m over 3 equal? Well, m over 3 would be top over top, so we'd want bottom over bottom, 8 over e. Here we've got 10 is to k as d is to z, so z is to d. They just flipped this side upside down, so I'm going to flip the other side upside down, k over 10. All right, this one has a bunch. So if 3 is to b as 5 is to 7, then b is to 5. That would be bottom over bottom. You can do then top over top, 3 over 7. 7 over 3, 7 is to 3 as 5 is to b, 5 over b. 15 would be 3 times 5, so they did cross multiplication, so that would be 7b. And then 12 over 5, there is no 12, which means they did that thing where they added the denominator to the top. See that? They must have added it. That's how they got the 12. So then you need to add the denominator to the other one. So it should be 3 plus b over b. Okay. Oops. For these, you're just cross multiplying to solve. So 5 times 7 would give me 35. Here, I need to do 8 times the quantity x minus 3. So I get 8x minus 24. I'm going to careful add 24 to both sides. So I get 8x equals 59. And I made these up, so it's okay that that does not come out nice. You can leave it as 59 over 8. This guy, cross multiply, we get 4 times x plus 4 equals 3 times 10 or 30. So we get 4x equals, subtract that, 14. So x is 14 fourths, but here we can reduce, here we couldn't reduce, so we should divide them each by 2, so I get 7 halves. Or you could say 3.5. Any of those are fine. I'm going to say 3.5. Here I have lots of quantities, so I'm going to do x minus 3 in parentheses times x minus 8, so my second parentheses. I've got x plus 4 times x plus 7. And now I'm going to do that process where I FOIL, so x times x squared. X times 8, negative 8x. Negative 3 times x, negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 8, positive 24. Remember, you can pause and stop this as much as you need. X times x squared. X times 7 plus 7x. 4 times x plus 4x, and 4 times 7 plus 28. So once again, if I try to move the x squared over here, they both cancel. So that's kind of cool. So we don't have to worry about quadratics. I'm going to put my like terms together. Oh my goodness, we've got 11 on both sides. But when I go to add 11 here, that doesn't cancel. It gives me 22x. I'm going to subtract 28. I get negative 4. Careful, divide by 22. And then I can reduce this because they both reduce by 2. So my final answer would be negative 2 over 11. So yeah, we got some weird numbers, but that's totally fine. Sometimes they come out nice, sometimes they're weird. All right, on this next guy, they tell us how it's similar. I think you'll need a sketch, so I'm just going to do a quick sketch, A, B, C, And my second one, I'm going to make sure matches up. So RST. And they said angle A is 45. So I'm going to fill that in. And angle T is 60. So the way I drew it, I drew that so they would be in the same order. So that means that R is also 45. And then let's see, if I add these two together, I get 105. And I'm going to take that away from 180. So the missing angle is 75 in both there. So that's 75, and this one's 60. So C is the same as T, which is 60, and then S was that 75. So the sketch really helped us to see how they matched up. Okay, in this one, they're giving me a ratio of the angles of a triangle. Well, remember, we know the angles of a triangle should add up to 180, but because I have the ratio, it could be any of these numbers times a value. So this is where we did 3x plus 5x plus 2x, basically attached an x to each of them, and then we're adding them up to 180 because that's the relationship we know. So then let's see what we get here. 10x equals 180, so we get x equals 18. Now careful, that's just the multiplier. My final answer is the measure of each angle, so then I'd have to plug in 18 back to both. So I'd have to take 3 times 18 to get that first angle, so I get 54. And then 5 times 18 to get the second angle, which is 90. And then 2 times 18, which is 36. So there's my 3 angles. Okay. And the next guy, we've got 2 sides of a rectangle are in a ratio of 3 to 4. If the perimeter is 520 centimeters, find the dimensions of the rectangle. Don't forget you need all 4 sides. Again, I would draw a picture. So in my picture, this side is 3 maybe, and that side's 4. And we know the perimeter should add up to 520. So some of you might say, well, I'll make this 3x and 4x, and then I'll add these two things together to 520. If you do that, you're forgetting that you have to have this side to get the perimeter, which will also be the same as that. So it'll also be 4x, and this side. So careful. You're not just going to add 3x and 4x. You have to add all 4 sides. So when I add all of these up, let's see what I get. I get 6x plus, I get 14x total when I add those all up. And they said the perimeter, all of those sides should add up to 520. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 14. And I get x equals 30. Now, I'm not done. This is just the multiplier. They wanted find the dimensions of the rectangle, so I need to know both of these sides, the dimensions, so I have to plug it back in. So I would do 3 times 30 and 4 times 30. So I get 90 centimeters and 120. So this rectangle is a 90 by 120 centimeter rectangle. Okay, so in this next problem, I changed that to a 1. So they gave me the angles of a pentagon, ABCD, are in this ratio, respectively. Find the measures. Okay, so this one, since it's dealing with angles of a pentagon, I need to know how much a pentagon adds up to. So 5 minus 2 times 180 gives me 3 times 180, which is 540. Okay, so now I need to add these guys up. Okay, so if I add all of these up, I'm going to have 2x plus 1x, right? Because I'm adding the different ratios, plus 5x, plus 1x, plus 1x. And all of these, it's like a triangle, except they're adding up to 540 because it's a pentagon. Okay, so then we have, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10x equals 540. So that means x is 54. Okay, so that's x. But what they wanted here wasn't just x. They want the measures of these angles. And this is why this statement said A, B, C, D are in the ratio respectively. That means that A goes with, whoa, that's huge. That means that A goes with the 2x, and B goes with the 1x, and C goes with the 5x, and so on and so forth. So if I want angle A, that goes with a 2x, so then I'm going to do 2 times 54. So I get 108 for angle A. D goes with the 1x, which is just x, so 54, and so is E. So those are both 54. So that wasn't too bad. Okay. All right, we've got the last two, and they're the kind of the heaviest. So, okay, the figures are similar according to this statement. This is really important because I think this shape can look similar in 2 different ways. So you really have to use this to match up who goes with who. So first I need a scale factor. So the first thing that I would do is probably try to match up 2 sides. And I think you have to, again, you have to be really careful because does 30 go with 18 or does 30 go with Y, you know? So if you're trying to decide if you think 30 and 18 match up, go to your statement. Does CF match up with BL? CF and BL, nope. So those two don't match. The other one that looks right to me could be QF and BE. Let's see. QF and BE, those two do match. So I can use these two sides together to make my scale factor. So I've got 16 over 12, and that goes from the left to the right. So I'm going this one on top, this one on bottom, and I'm 100% going to reduce that. They both reduce by 4, so 4/3. So there's my scale factor. I'm going to use that in all my proportions. So now we got to solve for these guys. So I'm going to start my proportion with my scale factor, and then I'm going to use a side from the left over a side from the right. So if I want to figure out who X matches up with, I can go to my statement. MQ should match up with LB. LB is 18. So I'm going to use 8 over 18. So I'm setting up that proportion, guys. Again, I'm putting this one on top because I started with someone over here, over that way. So I have to always go from this one to that one. And I picked X and I matched X up, MQ, with its partner LB, which was 18. Okay, so then we're just cross multiplying. So 4 times 18 equals 3X. Then we're going to divide both sides by 3. And so I end up with 24. Okay, start with our same scale factor. Let's say we want to solve for Y. So we need to know who Y matches up with. Well, Y is ER, and ER should match up with FC, and FC is 30. So those two should match. But remember, I have to put this guy on top, so 30 over Y. So then 3 times 30 is 90 equals 4Y. You can divide both sides by 4. This ends up being 45 over 2, or you could say 22.5. That's pretty nice. That's not too terrible of a decimal. All right, back to my ratio so I can set up my proportion. Scale factor first. If I want to solve for Z, the last two guys that are left are Z and 28. 28 will be on top. Z will be on bottom. So I get 3 times 28 equals 4Z. I divide both sides by 4. So I'm going to get 21 for Z. Okay. So I'll fill the rest of this in, 22.5 and then 21. What's the ratio of their perimeters? Meaning if I added up all these sides and then put that over what I got when I added all these sides up, we said that still ends up being the same as our scale factor. So we can just also say that that's 4/3. So this one, the statement really helped us because this was all rotated and mixed around. And if I didn't pay attention to the statement, I might have matched up the wrong two parts. Okay. All right, last but not least, we've got one where the two shapes are, one is within the other one. So I said these two quadrilaterals are similar, and I gave you the way they're similar. And I said first and foremost, whenever they overlap, redraw the two shapes and relabel each shape. So that's probably going to take us the longest time, is to redraw. So I'm going to redraw. I'm going to draw the little guy, and then I'm going to draw the big guy, and I'm going to relabel. The little guy is WDTA, and the big guy is WHGS. Okay. Let's see, we also have some angles we can label. So I'm going to label this little guy was 75, this was 68, and this was 122. And then we had 12, we had 8, and then the big guy, careful, the big guy, this whole side isn't just 8. This whole side is all of that. Add these two things together, we get 20. That's the big important one. We get 18 here, and we get 16 here. Okay. So, first of all, remember, in similar quadrilaterals, angles are congruent. So if this guy's 75, so is W. If this guy's 68, so is this one. And then remember, all your angles add up to 360 in a four-sided shape. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to pop out my calculator. Doesn't want to turn on. It's being difficult. Okay, so I'm going to do 75 plus 68 plus 122. And I'm going to take that away from 360. Okay, so I got 95. All right, so my last little angle is 95, which means this is 95 and this is 122. So see how I was able to fill all that stuff in. But these two separate shapes are super helpful. Okay, so then they wanted the measure of angle H, which is this guy out here. You now know that's 68 degrees. You wanted the measure of G, which is this guy. You now know that's 95. And remember, I can call these guys H and G because there's only one angle there. When I go in to talk about other angles, like this guy, I want WAT. WAT is that angle, so I have to use 3 letters, because if I just say A, I don't know if I mean that A or that A. So, but WAT was 122. Okay, so now let's solve for some sides. So this one didn't ask you to come up with a scale factor, but you're going to need it. So we need to find 2 sides in our shape where both of the sides and the ones that correspond are given. So like 8 doesn't have a partner. This side doesn't have a partner. The 2 sides that do have partners are 12 and 20. So that's what we're going to use. So we're going to use 12 and 20 as our scale factor from here to here. And yep, I'm going to reduce it to make the math easier. So 12 and 20 both reduce by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So my scale factor is 3/5. So that's going to be the proportion I use this whole time. So 3 over 5 equals, okay, what do they want me to solve for? dt? dt, this is a d. So they want me to solve for this side first. So that side is the missing side, so I'm going to call it x. And x would match up with 18. So I'm going to do x over 18. Again, I did this side first over that, so that's why I have to be consistent. Okay, so then I'm going to cross multiply. So 3 times 18 equals 5x. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Let's see what we get here. 3 times 18 divided by 5. We get 0.8. So it's not a terrible decimal. If you did get it as a fraction, if you did it reduced it, it would be 4/5. That can't be right. Hold on, let me plug that in again. That seems, oh, it's my screen cut off the 1. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It's 10.8. I was going to say, see, there you go. You got to pay attention to the math. So 10.8. There we go. So dt is 10.8. All right, let's do another side. We need AT. I'm going to call this one Y because I don't want to use X again because I already did. So Y matches up with this side. So I'm going to go back to my original scale factor, 3:5 as Y is to 16. And I'm going to cross multiply. 3 times 16 equals 5y. I'm going to divide both sides by the 5. So here comes that calculator again. I'll show you guys so you can see it. So I'm going to do 3 times 16, and then I'm going to divide by 5. So again, because the decimal is not so bad, I would just use the decimal, 9.6. So go for it. Use those calculators. So remember, this was AT. So AT is 9.6. All right, WS is this side. I'm going to call that one Z. I haven't used a Z yet. So I'm going to use my original scale factor, which was 3:5. Now remember, I'm going to use 8 and Z, but because I use this one first on top, I have to use the 8 first on top over Z. Cross multiply. 3Z equals 40. Divide both sides by 3. This is not going to be a nice number, so if you want to leave it 40/3, you can. Or you could give me the decimal, but you have to write it as a repeating decimal. So I'll show you what I mean. Like you can't say 13.3. You have to say 13.3 with the repeating bar. I prefer the fraction. The reason we don't have to worry about that here is because they came out even. All right, last but not least then, this one's a little tricky. I need AS. Well, AS is this part. So you have to do a little extra work. If the whole thing, WS, was 13.3, and this little part was 8, we can do 13.3 repeating, or I'm going to use 40/3 and then take away that 8, and then we'll get what's left. So I have this perfect decimal here, but even if you didn't, you could take 40/3 in your calculator and then take the 8 away. So I end up with 5.3 repeating. Okay. All right, guys. So again, take your time. Big thing on this when they overlap is to draw them separately and then solve. It makes a huge difference because it makes it easier to see who matches up with who. And you also don't accidentally do 12 over 8, which would throw everything off. Remember, this ended up being 12 over the whole thing, 20. So first thing is always draw them separately. All right. This is a great review for tomorrow's quiz. If you can do all these problems, you should be fine for the quiz. Might not be a bad idea to watch this tomorrow morning before we come to class because we're going to start the quiz first thing. If you do have questions that you want to get answered, you can come at 9:15. I'll be there tomorrow, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have before we start the quiz. Okay? All right. See you guys tomorrow.